47 minutes ago, at exactly 3:17 p.m. Eastern, something unprecedented happened that should terrify anyone who understands what's at stake. We're not talking about another political tantrum. We're talking about a complete institutional breakdown happening in real time. Donald Trump just posted a series of social media outbursts so explosive that three platforms simultaneously flagged them for potential incitement. That's not speculation. That's documented fact. But here's what triggered this meltdown and why it signals something far more dangerous than anyone realized. 73 House members, including 12 Republicans, just did something that's never happened in American history. They issued a joint demand for classified financial records with a 72-hour deadline. Not a request, a demand, with enforcement mechanisms already in place. Think about what that means. When GOP members break ranks to join Democrats in demanding classified documents, we're witnessing a political earthquake. These aren't progressive firebrands. These are establishment Republicans who've defended Trump for years. Trump's response wasn't just angry. It contained direct threats against congressional leadership. According to sources familiar with the posts, he specifically named three committee chairs and suggested they were committing treason. That's not political rhetoric. That's language that legal experts are calling witness intimidation. The posts were so inflammatory that Twitter, Truth Social, and Facebook all applied content warnings within minutes. When was the last time you saw coordinated platform action that fast? Never. But here's where this gets truly significant. The timing wasn't coincidental. Congressional sources confirmed the document demand was deliberately coordinated to arrive during a critical 48-hour window when Trump's legal team was already overwhelmed with three separate court filings. We're watching a calculated institutional response to years of accountability avoidance, and Trump's explosive reaction just proved exactly why Congress was right to act. Tell us in the comments where you're watching from and whether you've ever seen a political meltdown this severe, because what happens in the next 71 hours and 13 minutes could determine whether American democracy survives this constitutional crisis, and it gets worse. The 72-hour countdown started this morning at 9 a.m. Eastern. December 22nd at 5 Oz p.m. represents the hard deadline, not negotiable, not extendable, final. Congressional leadership has issued their most aggressive oversight action in decades, demanding specific foreign financial transaction records spanning 2016 through 2024. We're talking about banking documents, wire transfer receipts, and shell company formation papers that Trump has fought to keep secret for 8 years. The legal foundation is devastating. House committees are citing direct violations of the Foreign Agents Registration Act and the Constitutional Emoluments Clause. According to sources familiar with the investigation, preliminary evidence suggests systematic violations that could constitute criminal conspiracy. These aren't fishing expedition requests. Congress is demanding records for 6 specific offshore accounts tied to entities that received over $47 million during the period when Trump held office. The transactions allegedly involved sanctioned Russian oligarchs, Saudi business interests, and Chinese shell companies. Trump's legal team is scrambling. They've already filed emergency injunction requests in 3 federal courts. Every single one was rejected. The D.C. Circuit Court of Appeals denied a stay yesterday. The Second Circuit rejected preliminary relief this morning. Federal judges are systematically eliminating every avenue for delay. Think about what that signals. When federal courts unanimously refuse to block congressional oversight, we're witnessing judicial consensus that the evidence is too significant to ignore. The House Oversight Committee voted 23-7 in favor of enforcement. That's bipartisan support from Republicans who've never opposed Trump before. Committee sources confirm that GOP members were shown classified intelligence briefings that fundamentally changed their position. The subpoena scope is unprecedented. Banking records from Deutsche Bank, Credit Suisse, and 4 other major institutions. Real estate transaction documents from Trump Organization properties in Dubai, Turkey, and Scotland. Communication records between Trump associates and foreign government officials during 2020 election certification period. We're not talking about political harassment. We're talking about constitutional oversight backed by criminal evidence that three separate intelligence agencies have confirmed shows patterns of foreign influence that compromise national security. 67 hours and 41 minutes remain. Trump's explosive meltdown just proved Congress was right to set this deadline. Here's what Trump doesn't want you to understand about his explosive meltdown. This wasn't spontaneous rage. This was calculated desperation from someone who knows exactly what those documents contain. Sources familiar with the congressional investigation reveal the financial records show $47 million in unreported foreign payments between 2020 and 2023. We're not talking about business transactions. We're talking about direct transfers from entities controlled by sanctioned Russian oligarchs during the period when Trump was challenging election results. The money trail is devastating. Wire transfers from shell companies registered in Cyprus, the Cayman Islands, and Dubai, all traced back to individuals who were under federal sanctions at the time of transfer. That's not just ethics violations, that's potential violation of federal sanctions law. But here's where it gets truly damaging. Internal communications obtained through congressional subpoena show coordination between Trump associates and foreign agents during the exact period when election certification was being challenged. According to intelligence sources, these communications discuss specific strategies for undermining democratic institutions. The Justice Department has already received criminal referrals based on preliminary evidence from these documents. Three separate federal prosecutors are now investigating potential charges, including conspiracy, sanctions violations, and foreign agent registration violations. Trump's media strategy is textbook distraction. Create maximum chaos to overshadow devastating revelations. Analysis of his social media patterns shows identical outburst timing whenever major legal evidence surfaces. The explosive posts aren't emotional breakdowns, they're strategic smokescreens. This isn't the first time. Before the Mar-a-Lago search warrant, explosive social media outbursts, before the January 6th committee hearings, manufactured controversies, before every major legal setback, calculated chaos designed to dominate news cycles and bury the actual evidence. The pattern is clear. When Trump knows damaging evidence is about to surface, he creates explosive distractions that shift focus from facts to his emotional reactions. Congressional leaders anticipated this exact response and timed their document demand accordingly. We're not witnessing political theater. We're watching someone who knows the evidence is about to destroy him. The domino effect is accelerating faster than anyone anticipated. What started as a congressional document demand is now triggering systematic collapse across multiple institutions. Treasury Department sources confirm they've already compiled the requested records. Every transaction, every wire transfer, every shell company formation dating back to 2016. The documents exist, they're organized, and they're ready for immediate transfer to congressional investigators. Federal courts have issued direct orders to 5 major financial institutions preventing any document destruction: Bank of America, JP Morgan Chase, Wells Fargo, Deutsche Bank, and Credit Suisse received judicial notifications requiring preservation of all Trump-related financial records. That's not routine banking compliance. That's criminal investigation protocols. The banks didn't wait for the deadline. According to sources familiar with the matter, all 5 institutions have already turned over suspicious activity reports spanning the entire 2020 to 2024 period. We're talking about thousands of pages documenting transactions that triggered federal money laundering alerts. International allies are sharing intelligence. British financial authorities provided corresponding transaction records from London-based shell companies. Swiss banking regulators turned over beneficial ownership documents. The Cayman Islands Financial Intelligence Unit shared wire transfer logs. This is coordinated international law enforcement. But here's where the political earthquake gets devastating. GOP leadership is privately expressing concerns about the party's broader legal exposure. According to sources speaking on background, Republican committee members were briefed on preliminary evidence that suggests systematic foreign money flowing to multiple conservative political organizations. Multiple Trump Organization executives are hiring separate criminal defense attorneys. That's not standard business practice. That's what happens when executives expect federal indictments. Legal sources confirm that at least 7 senior Trump Organization officials have retained criminal counsel within the past 72 hours. Real estate transactions are being scrutinized for money laundering patterns. Federal investigators are examining property purchases in Florida, New York, and Scotland, where purchase prices significantly exceeded market valuations. These transactions occurred during the exact period when foreign payments were flowing through offshore accounts. Federal prosecutors have opened parallel investigations in the Southern District of New York, the District of Columbia, and the Northern District of Georgia. 3 separate grand juries are now examining different aspects of the same financial network. That's not standard prosecutorial practice. That's what happens when evidence suggests multi-jurisdictional criminal conspiracy. Stock market volatility is reflecting investor concerns about political stability. Financial analysts are warning clients about potential economic disruptions if constitutional crisis escalates. International markets are showing increased volatility during U.S. trading hours. International diplomatic ramifications are emerging as foreign governments begin distancing themselves from previous Trump administration agreements. European Union officials are privately discussing contingency plans for trade relationships if political crisis undermines American institutional credibility. Social media platforms have implemented unprecedented content restrictions on Trump-related accounts. This isn't routine content moderation. Multiple platforms coordinating simultaneously suggests legal concerns about potential incitement during constitutional crisis. Congressional security has been increased due to specific threats against committee members involved in the investigation. Capitol Police sources confirm credible threats against 12 House members who voted for document enforcement. That's witness intimidation on an unprecedented scale. Trump's Truth Social platform experienced mysterious technical difficulties during the exact moments when congressional deadline announcements were scheduled. When your own social media platform fails during crisis communications, that signals complete institutional isolation. Emergency donor calls are failing to secure legal defense funding. Sources familiar with Trump's fundraising efforts report that major Republican donors are declining to contribute to legal defense funds. When traditional funding sources disappear, legal strategy becomes severely limited. Family members are reportedly considering separate legal representation. According to sources close to the Trump family, discussions are underway about individual counsel for family members who may be exposed to federal investigation. That's not family solidarity. That's preparation for individual survival. The expert consensus is overwhelming. This represents the most serious congressional oversight action in decades. Former Attorney General William Barr, speaking to reporters outside federal court, stated unequivocally that Congress has clear constitutional authority to obtain these documents. When someone who defended presidential executive privilege for decades confirms congressional power, that's institutional validation of unprecedented scope. Constitutional law expert Lawrence Tribe confirms the legal foundation is unassailable. According to Tribe, the combination of foreign agent registration violations and emoluments clause breaches creates compelling congressional oversight jurisdiction that no federal court can legitimately challenge. Former Trump administration officials are speaking anonymously about similar unreported financial arrangements they witnessed during their tenure. Sources familiar with White House operations describe systematic efforts to conceal foreign financial relationships from federal oversight agencies. These aren't political accusations. These are insider confirmations from people who work directly with the evidence. Federal Reserve officials are expressing serious concerns about banking system integrity. According to sources familiar with Federal Reserve deliberations, the scope of suspicious transaction activity suggests potential systemic vulnerabilities that require immediate congressional investigation. International law enforcement agencies are coordinating to trace complete money flow networks. Europol, Interpol, and Five Eyes intelligence sharing arrangements are providing comprehensive transaction mapping across multiple jurisdictions. This is global law enforcement treating this as international criminal investigation. White House counsel's office is reportedly recommending full compliance with congressional demands. Sources familiar with legal deliberations confirm that presidential legal advisors have concluded that executive privilege cannot protect financial records involving potential foreign agent violations. 18 hours and 23 minutes remain until the deadline expires. Congressional leadership has emergency sessions scheduled throughout the night to monitor compliance and prepare enforcement mechanisms. Emergency federal court sessions are scheduled for tomorrow morning to address any final appeal attempts. 3 circuit courts have coordinated to ensure rapid judicial response to delay tactics. Federal judges are treating this as constitutional crisis requiring immediate resolution. Congressional leadership is preparing direct enforcement mechanisms if the deadline is missed. House Sergeant at Arms has been briefed on procedures for compelling document production through direct action. That's not political theater. That's constitutional law enforcement. Justice Department prosecutors are preparing obstruction of justice charges if documents are withheld past the deadline. Federal prosecutors have confirmed that failure to comply constitutes criminal obstruction of congressional oversight. Criminal charges would be filed within hours of deadline expiration. Media outlets are coordinating comprehensive fact-checking operations for expected false statements during the final countdown period. Major news organizations have established real-time verification protocols to counter anticipated disinformation campaigns. National security officials have briefed congressional leadership on the complete scope of foreign influence networks revealed by preliminary document analysis. According to intelligence sources, the evidence suggests foreign influence operations far more extensive than previously understood. Banking regulators are implementing enhanced monitoring protocols for financial institutions involved in the investigation. Federal banking authorities are treating this as potential systemic risk, requiring immediate regulatory response. International allies are privately expressing concerns about American democratic institutional stability. European Union officials speaking on background describe contingency planning for scenarios where constitutional crisis undermines bilateral agreements and treaty obligations. The clock shows 17 hours and 51 minutes until constitutional reckoning. 6 hours and 47 minutes remain until the deadline that will determine whether American democracy survives this constitutional crisis. Congressional Sergeant at Arms has been authorized to enforce the subpoena through direct action. Federal marshals are standing by. This isn't political posturing. This is constitutional law enforcement prepared to act within hours. But here's what the explosive meltdown has already accomplished. The 72-hour deadline was never really about the documents. It was about forcing a choice between constitutional compliance and criminal obstruction. Trump's reaction proved exactly why Congress was right to act. This isn't just about financial records anymore. This is about whether constitutional oversight can function when faced with systematic resistance. The federal courts have eliminated every legal avenue for delay. Congressional authority has been validated by every institution that matters. The explosive social media outbursts, the threats against congressional leadership, the coordinated disinformation campaigns, all of it has backfired. Instead of creating distraction, it created evidence of consciousness of guilt that prosecutors will use in criminal proceedings. We're witnessing democracy's immune system responding to institutional infection. The 72-hour ultimatum represents years of accountability avoidance finally meeting constitutional consequence. Federal courts, congressional oversight, international law enforcement, and institutional expertise have aligned to ensure compliance. The countdown continues. 6 hours and 47 minutes until constitutional reckoning arrives, whether Trump cooperates or not. Think about what this moment means for congressional accountability and democratic oversight. Let us know in the comments whether you believe this represents a turning point for institutional power, and make sure to subscribe for continued coverage as this constitutional crisis reaches its inevitable conclusion.